Today, we are going to unpack the actual science of professional influence. We're getting past all that vague advice about people skills and diving straight into a really precise neurological framework. It's called Trust Calibration, and it's a system that's designed to engineer deep, effective relationships fast.
The reason your professional relationships feel shallow or just full of friction isn't because you lack people skills. It's actually a failure of neurological synchronization. So we're going to show you the three-step system for trust calibration that builds deep, unshakable influence, and you never have to get too personal to do it. And that, right there, that's where everything changes.
So, let's start with a big question. What if we'd been thinking about trust all wrong? You know, we treat it like this vague, soft feeling that just takes years and years to build. But what if it's not? What if trust is a hard, structural state, something you could actually engineer predictably and efficiently within just minutes of meeting someone? Well, that's the powerful idea we're digging into today.
All right, here's our roadmap. First, we'll nail down the problem by looking at the very real cost of low-trust environments. Then, we're going under the hood, into the neuroscience of your brain's trust algorithm. From there, we'll unpack the solution, a simple three-step protocol. And finally, we'll see the incredible payoff when you put this all into practice.
Okay, so let's start by putting a price tag on this problem. We're talking about the high cost of mistrust, and we can actually measure it with a concept called the relational tax.
You see, the relational tax is this invisible drag on performance that exists in pretty much every organization. It's all that mental energy you're constantly burning just trying to figure people out. You know the feeling. Are they on my side? What do they really want? Do I have to watch my back here? This constant low-level monitoring just eats up your focus. It slows down every decision, and it creates friction in every single interaction. It's literally a tax on your brain power, and trust me, it is incredibly expensive.
So, to figure out how to get rid of that tax, we have to look at the neuroscience. We need to understand your brain's trust algorithm, and more importantly, why our natural instincts for building trust are often completely wrong for the professional world.
Okay, so the main character in this whole story is a part of your brain called the amygdala. The easiest way to think about it is as your brain's security guard. Its number one job is survival, which means its default setting is always better safe than sorry. So when you meet someone new, this amygdala's guard immediately goes up. It treats every single stranger as a potential threat, a social variable that could hurt you. And until it gets very clear signals of safety and reliability, it keeps you on high alert. And that is the source of the relational tax we were just talking about. So how do we get the brain to lower that guard? Well, the mechanism behind it is something called predictive coding. See, your brain, at its core, is a prediction machine. It absolutely despises uncertainty and surprise. Its main job is to build an accurate model of the world so it knows what's coming next. This works for objects, for physics, and most importantly, for people. When someone's actions are consistent and predictable, your brain can model them easily. That reduces surprise, and that creates a sense of cognitive ease. And that feeling of ease, that is the foundation of trust.
And this gets us to the central paradox of building professional trust, right? The common advice is always build intimacy, get personal, share vulnerabilities, find common hobbies. But from a neuroscience standpoint, doing that too early can be a massive mistake. Oversharing with a stranger is, by definition, unpredictable behavior. It can cross social boundaries and actually trigger the amygdala's guard, flagging you as a potential social threat. The smarter play is to build predictability first. You have to satisfy the brain's deep need to reduce surprise. You have to prove that you are a stable, reliable variable. Intimacy can come later, sure, but predictability has to come first.
So if the goal is to systematically build that predictability, how do we actually do it? This brings us to the core of this whole explainer, the three-step trust protocol. Think of it as the engineered solution to bypass that slow, painful guard-down delay. The protocol is built on three pillars, and you have to deliver them in this specific order. First, the Competence Signal, then the Benevolence Anchor, and finally, the Integrity Loop. Each step is designed to answer a very specific, subconscious question the other person's brain is asking about you. Let's break them down. The very first question their brain is asking is, are you useful or are you a threat? It's all about logical safety. So your first job is to establish what's called cognitive trust, and you do this by providing micro-proof of your capability. Now, this is not about bragging. It's about efficiently showing that you get the problem. It could be as simple as saying, I saw a similar challenge on a project last year, and here's how we solved it. By giving their logical brain the data it craves, you allow it to stop vetting you and start collaborating with you. All right, so we've sent the competence signal. We've established that cognitive trust. Their brain now sees you as capable and useful, not as some kind of threat. We checked that first box. Now we've got to build on that foundation with the second, more emotional layer of trust, benevolence. So once their brain accepts that you're competent, it immediately asks the next question. Okay, but are you on my side? This is where we build effective or emotional trust. And the tool for this is called the goal mirror. Instead of talking about yourself, you show that you deeply understand their world. You could say something like, so if I'm hearing you right, the biggest thing you're worried about is hitting that Q3 deadline without getting more headcount. When you show you see the world from their perspective, you prove your intent is aligned with their success. This is the trigger that tells the brain to release oxytocin, the neurochemical that quiets the amygdala and creates that real feeling of connection.
Okay, so let's check in. We've proven we're competent, we've proven we're on their side, their brain's guard is down, cognitive and affective trust are in place. So how do we lock this in for good and make it the default state? Well, that brings us to the final and most critical step, building integrity.
The integrity loop is what makes trust structural and automatic, and it is all about micro-reliability. See, real trust isn't built on some grand, heroic gesture. It's built in thousands of tiny moments. It's about making and keeping a constant stream of small, high-frequency promises. Things like saying, I'll send you that link in 5 minutes, and then you actually do it. Or, I'll have feedback to you by 3 p.m. When you deliver on these tiny commitments with 100% consistency, you become perfectly predictable. Their brain no longer has to waste any energy wondering if you'll follow through. Trust just becomes the baseline.
So, we've run the 3-step play. What's the result of all this? This brings us to the payoff, a massive increase in something we call relational throughput.
Relational throughput is simply a measure of how quickly and frictionlessly ideas, decisions, and feedback can flow between people. When you successfully calibrate trust, you completely eliminate that relational tax we talked about at the start. All that energy that was being wasted on social monitoring is now free. 100% of everyone's focus can go directly to the work itself. It is the ultimate productivity hack.
And I mean, just look at the difference. On the left, you have a low-trust interaction. The cognitive load is through the roof. Every word is chosen carefully. Every decision gets second-guessed. It's slow, it's painful, it's exhausting. Now look at the right, a high-trust interaction. The cost just plummets. Communication is direct. Feedback is clean. You can move at the speed of thought because you're not tiptoeing through a social minefield. The difference in performance isn't just a little better, it is a total game changer.
And this all leads to the ultimate payoff, what we call the multiplier effect. High trust doesn't just make individuals more efficient, it makes the entire group smarter. When you have psychological safety, people bring forward bolder ideas. They're not afraid of constructive conflict. They're willing to take risks and admit when they're wrong, which, by the way, is the engine of all innovation. In a high-trust team, the collective IQ becomes way greater than just the sum of its parts.
So let's recap the protocol that you can start using literally today. It's a simple but really powerful sequence. First, send the competence signal. Give them that micro proof that you know what you're doing. Second, establish the benevolence anchor. Mirror their goals to prove you're on the same team. And third, lock it all in with the integrity loop. Be relentlessly micro-reliable. That is the system for engineering trust.
And that really brings us to the final idea here. True productivity isn't about hustle or grinding or willpower. It's not about doing more stuff. It's about mastering systems that remove friction so that deep focus becomes effortless. And the single biggest source of friction in our professional lives is a lack of trust. By mastering the system of trust calibration, you're not just building better relationships, you are building the very foundation for your own peak performance.